Hello everyone, my name is Marcus James, and today I want to share how I used AI to help guide an understanding of software implementation, specifically the phases, sub-phases, and the different artifacts that go along with each one. At first I thought it would be a little technical, but what I found out is that using AI made the process a lot more approachable, and I was able to break down complex ideas and actually visualize what a full implementation would look like from start to finish. So, software implementation has a lot of moving parts, and if you ever tried to plan one out, which I was able to be a part of, a software implementation with one of my agencies, you know that it's just not a plug and play. So that means there's stakeholders involved, system design, testing, training, all the nine, and if you miss a step, it can really affect the outcome of your software, which can cause to, spending more money, employers or users not satisfied with the system, so they may leave your organization and you just spent all this money on a new rollout. So that's all of these are very, very important. I wanted a tool that can help me organize the steps clearly, and that's where AI came in, and I was using ChatGPT, and I asked really specific questions like, what are the main phases of software implementation? What kind of documents or deliverables are typically created at each stage, and then what should I expect during the deployment phase in healthcare? So I was really trying to get a generalization of software implementation and how I can make it my own adventure or my own experience to make sure that I understand what's really going on. And what's great is that AI gave me organized, actionable information without needing to dig through a dozen textbooks or websites. The textbooks that we have for our current class was a great addition. There was a lot of information in there that helped me with, alongside ChatGPT, but ChatGPT really was the forefront of me, grasping each phase and what goes into that phase and how that phase is, come about. So mapping out the main phases really is, one of the first things I asked was, what are the key phases of a typical software implementation? Now, I knew that, based on just being around, software rollouts, implementations, I should say, and the book that we have for our course, but I just want to start there, just to see if they're aligning with the information that I have already gathered. And AI laid it out pretty clearly. First stage is initiation, second is planning, 3, design or configuration, testing is 4, deployment is 5, and then maintenance or upkeep is 6. And then from there, I asked follow-up questions to go into deeper each phase, like what's happening during the planning phase? What do I need to prepare for the deployment? And what surprised me is how adaptable the responses were. So even if I did not like a response, I could really go in there and get more specific, and they will give me a more detailed outline look of what I'm looking for. And when I mentioned this was for a healthcare environment, the AI started including examples like EHR systems or HIPAA considerations. So I really got to, bring my real life experience to the ChatGPT, and it helped me really generalize and generate an idea of the rollout or the implementation phases. So getting into the sub phases and activities, that was like, once I had the big picture, I started asking about the smaller details, like what activities happens inside of each phase, what phase goes next, which part of the phase is the most important, things like that. And for example, during the deployment phase, AI walked me through steps like staff training and onboarding, creating a support plan for go live, post-launch monitoring, and change management communications. And all of these were all things that I already have done before, so it really brought it to real life, like, hey, I've done that before, staff training and onboarding. If I'm an EHR manager, I'm in charge of training people for that system, onboarding them. If someone needs, to get access to the system, I'm there to do so. If someone is locked out of the system and, needs to get into the system, I'm the person to, you go to for that. Creating a support plan for go live. Once I was able to integrate a patient portal with one of my agencies, I did a lot of this, a support plan for go live. So what do we want this to look like? How do we want it to look? Who's going to be involved? What type of pieces are missing for the go live? And then the post-launch monitoring, that's something that I do every day, especially in my field, in my new role. I just post-launch monitor. So I believe we implemented our EHR for my current agency maybe 4 years ago. We're still post-launch monitoring the system, so that was always good to know, and it really helped me grasp what was going on around me and how I could, put that into real world. And honestly, it felt like I was just talking to a project coordinator. And I've been a project coordinator before as well, so I had experience, and I knew the technical words or information to ask ChatGPT to give me the input or the information that I was looking for. And because the responses were super practical, and I could easily picture how this would look in a real implementation timeline. So what about the artifacts? So as we talk about the artifacts, we're just talking about the stuff that's created through the project. So like documents, tools, templates, anything you name it, which I am familiar with. So I asked AI things like, what are common artifacts in the testing phase? And they'll give me, then it gave me test plans, defect logs, UAT scripts. It just really gave me different information or different tools within that phase that could help me. And then I also asked them, what should I have ready before go live, which is a great question. It's very simple, but it's great because as an organization, you should want to know what you should have and ready to go before go live. And I got examples like training guides, issue escalation paths, and deployment checklists, which was great. You want to have a training guide. You want to know how to use the system once it goes live. You want to have issue escalation paths. So let's say if A plus B is C, but A plus B is equaling to D right now, we got to figure out how we're going to escalate that and get that taken care of. It even offers some formatting, some of these documents. Like I asked a simple training agenda, and then boom, it just gave me a simple outline that I could use. Very simple, very minimalistic. But as I said, as you continue to, feed information or want information from chat, it really gave me a lot of different ideas of, sub phases and the main phases of a rollout. So just to wrap it all up, what I've learned through this process is that AI isn't doing the work for you. Like, you can really ask a basic question and they'll give you a basic answer, which is something that 9 times out of 10 you don't want. So that just goes back to me saying you gotta be able to be knowledgeable in what you're asking about, and they're just gonna help you through that. They're gonna bring, it's like a rabbit hole. And the more knowledge that you know, the more knowledge that you're asking to get out of ChatGPT, from my experience, is gonna continue to create great outputs or great outcomes for the information that you're asking for. It was like having a knowledgeable assistant who's always, ready to help brainstorm, organize ideas, or explain concepts in a simpler way. So it really helped me make sure I wasn't missing anything important, and it gave me a head start on building a structure for the project. And I would say if you ever feel overwhelmed with where to begin, especially in something as complex like software implementation, using AI is really a smart move. It's just like I said, the better questions you ask, the better answers you will give. So the more knowledgeable you are, ChatGPT will feed off of that and continue to give you information, and you can dictate how that information is going to go based on your knowledge. So this was a great project. This is one of the first projects that I've done like this. Now that AI is really a thing in our society, I'm sure as I continue to go through my master's program, this will be a thing of the future. But no, this was a great project. It really gave me information on information that I already knew, and I felt like I grew from just learning about system implementation, the main phases, the sub phases. The main phases I knew, but the sub phases is what really were new to me. I've heard of them before, but getting into the technical nitty gritty with AI has really helped me. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure doing this in the class. I look forward to continue to grow in my realm, the software, the healthcare IT realm. And I do believe that this class did that. So thank you for your time. Please respond to my video, and I will be looking at yours as well and giving my input. Thank you.